The Stone and Voice project is a Heritage Lottery funded project. We work in partnership with Dorset History Centre, WAVE, Arts Education Agency, Bournemouth Libraries and Arts University Bournemouth. The stone refers to the research being done into the conception, the design and the construction of the Resurrection Chapel, which is in St. Peter's Church grounds and is dedicated to the 23 men and the scholars of St. Peter's who are commemorated on the World War I memorial inside St. Peter's Church. The Voice part of the research project involved a team of volunteer researchers who examined the 23 names on the World War I memorial to find their life stories, their connection to Bournemouth and what their war stories were.
The research was done by 3 or 4 volunteers who took several men and researched them. But also on the bottom of the war memorial it says, and the pupils of St. Peter's School, but there are no names. So one of my projects was to research these pupils of St. Peter's School and see if we could find more about them. I went to Dorset History Centre, Hampshire Record Office and the library, looking at various different records to try and give these pupils names. We managed to find 7 or 8 who were killed in the First World War, and we found details, full details on 5 or 6 of these, and these pupils were used as the basis for the audiovisual production that was held in the chapel. The research and documents are now forming part of a resource pack that Dorset History Centre have produced for schools and any other organisation that wants to use them.
Essentially our role has been to coordinate the learning parts of the project, liaise with artists, filmmakers and musicians, and work with schools to really explore in an imaginative and creative way the heritage of St. Peter's Church and its Chapel of the Resurrection.
What we're going to do now is that I've talked to them a lot about World War I, and I've talked to them a lot about the context and the surrounding information. And now all I do is that I create some frameworks in which the children are going to create. And the 3 frameworks that we're going to create within is we're going to create a battle piece, because the common thread to the young men that died during the First World War that are commemorated in St. Peter's Church is that they were all involved in a battle. And we're going to create a piece that is about the young men that are remembered on a regular basis, and then we're going to create a piece about the young men that haven't been remembered before now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Guitars, when next time round. End of day 3 of the project, all in good shape. We have 4 amazing pieces based on the names on the War Memorial at St. Peter's Church. Can't wait till October. Got a big gap now of 10 weeks. Look forward to seeing the kids after the summer for an amazing concert in St. Peter's Church.
As part of the project with Land and Wave, we've been looking at World War I, but specifically the scholars of St. Peter's Church that are commemorated in the Resurrection Chapel. So with their tutor, Mr. Bonds, who's a history teacher, they've been looking at the conditions in World War I, the types of situations that these men would have found themselves in, and then that has translated into their classroom artwork, which we've been looking at their responses to those sorts of environments, those sorts of experiences. I think it's really good for them to see how learning can span across many different subjects and how it's maybe not just about sitting in the classroom and seeing images on the screen and talking about it, but it's actually asking them to actually respond to it in a visual way, so learning to create a visual language that can help them express how they feel about learning about these terrible situations, because it must be so difficult for them to understand what that's like, because it's a long time ago and you can't imagine what those conditions must have been like.
I've learned a lot about World War One. I didn't know. We discovered it in our old school, but we didn't do much detail. And in this, we have done quite a lot, which was good.
They were really brave to just go into war, not knowing what they were going to, what was going to happen to them. So.
My involvement with Stone and Voice was to produce film for Martin Coyne. That was my brief, and to work with students to help create those scenes that he might use in his film for the Arts by the Sea Festival. Now, that means that the reading that was done, the research that was done, had to be brought down to short scenes, vignettes, and in order to do that, we had to focus on particular soldiers because it's such a complex subject, and yet by focusing on a couple of soldiers in particular, we felt we could get across the emotions of that time, the awful loss that people were experiencing. At St. Peter's Church, we filmed the choir, and this was very poignant because 3 choir members died in World War I. The choir sang Fauré's Requiem, and during this we then cut the film to the Reverend Ian Terry, who read the words of the then Reverend of the time. I feel that the whole project came together in a very powerful way. I think it brought the young people that we worked with closer to imagining how it may have felt to have lived in those times.
Myself, I was given quite a specific brief about 4 soldiers who had, for some reason or other, not been included in certain records, and it was to sort of like investigate their involvement with the war and their involvement in St. Peter's and make a film commemorating that. And they basically dramatised the life of a teacher who taught at St. Peter's School called Charles Southwick, and we took those elements and put them together. They worked with the choir here in St. Peter's, and they got a wonderful, poignant letter from Charles Southwick's father, who was appealing to the powers that be at the time to try and get his son's effect as well.
I have determined to write to you. My son was reported killed in action on May the 9th last year during the British attack on Aubers Ridge.
So we pieced all these bits together in a meaningful way, and then we got assets from the schools. I think it was Bourne School for Boys were involved, mainly in their art department, and they wrote letters, postcards, putting themselves in the place of soldiers in the First World War, and they made collages as well and made artwork, and we digitised all that and pieced that together into the film and put it together in this sort of like huge sort of like filmic montage, which has been shown in the little Resurrection Chapel over there. It's about 25 minutes long.
There was universal sorrow when the news came of the death of Fred Head, Corporal F.G.A. Head of the 2nd 18th London Irish Rifles, who fell gallantly while charging the German lines near Passchendaele on Monday, November the 5th.
Lionel's body was recovered and reburied in Cabernet Rouge Cemetery, Souchez, north of Arras. He behaved with great gallantry. It was a brave soldier's death. One of his comrades wrote, "We were all very sorry to lose him. He was very popular with the fellows of his platoon." Lionel received the 15-star, Victory and British medals, which were sent to his mother.
The church has been here for such a long time. It's like basically a holder of knowledge. They keep these records, and the schools and myself can access these records and access something as important as the First World War. And I think it's important that people of my age and people of a younger age, school children, look at the First World War. Europe changed overnight with this war, and to go back and appreciate this through the eyes of local people is a wonderful thing. You know, it's almost absolutely essential these things happen.
Well, I was born in 1950, so I have no personal recollection of a world war. I've been very touched by the material that's been unearthed about real people, about real young people. My own children are not that much different in age from these young men that were slaughtered in those muddy fields.
I don't think it should ever be forgotten, either the First or Second World War. We've been a long time now without a world war, though of course there are still wars and soldiers dying, but they should never be forgotten.
The Stone and Voice concert is an original piece of music written by Bath Philharmonic in collaboration with Bournemouth School. And this piece of music is all about the men who go to war, and it gives the voice to those men. And the second movement will give voice to those men. The piece is in 4 parts, and it's a very beautiful piece and a very moving piece.
Yeah, it's the morning rehearsal with Bath Philharmonia. It's the first time the orchestral musicians have played the piece with the young people, so it's all a bit tense, but going well.
No, just loop it.
It went really well, actually, yeah. We got all our songs done, we know them all. And yeah, it sounds really, really good, so looking forward to it.
I brought great uncle Henry John's picture, lost at Mons, no known grave. And that's him as he is in a, what they call working dress. This is in his ceremonial dress.
I'm an alto.
Yeah, I'm alto too, and so we're all singing together to perform for a Requiem, which is great.
I think it's really important that stuff like this happens.
Some of this, it's really emotional but very beautiful at the same time. The music's really stunning, I think.
Yeah, it's really emotional.
Yeah. Well, it's a great experience, definitely, because I haven't really had much experience with performing with professional musicians, which is amazing because their skill is amazing.
Yeah. It's about all of the people in World War I who weren't as remembered through all of their sacrifices in the First World War. Excited, but a bit nervous as well.
this is part of celebrating what the people of Bournemouth are about in the past, in the present, in the future. And so Sound and Voice has been an absolutely fantastic first part of the wider St Peter's Church development project, which will work in partnerships with the Arts University and Bournemouth University, the library, the council, the Rotary clubs, the nightclub chaplaincy, the youth project, everybody who's about the well-being of the community we shall work with so that we can make the common good of Bournemouth absolutely fantastic.
We've had so many community things happening here, it's just been absolutely buzzing. And again, that's where it's so good, that it's exceeded those expectations. But it is all about building support and actually building love for this building and everything it stands for, because it is a wonderful example of high Victorian Gothic architecture. And we have with the chapel in the grounds an amazing work of architecture from the early 20th century. But we have a building that needs to be improved, to be restored, but likewise the stories that it tells in terms of the literary and music associations, and again the architecture. So we're looking to improve heating, lighting, interpretation centre. It's all about making sure that this building is alive.
There's a wide range of things that we want to explore, actually about the creativity of people in our schools and universities and throughout this vibrant community of Bournemouth now and into the future. Now that is the nub of this project. And that's what this building needs a renewing for, and what we need a word and music heritage centre for, to stir up creativity in Bournemouth's community.